Captain on the bridge.
Alright, captains, we are back here on the bridge, and today, yes, we will be giving our 10 tips for newer captains trying Star Trek Online in the year 2025. But yes, captains, before we get into this video, do us a huge favor and hit that like button to help the video, but also help the overall channel out. And also, if you're new here, well, welcome. Consider subscribing here to the YouTube bridge, where we're always on the lookout for like-minded captains to share our love, passion for Star Trek Online, but also things Star Trek. And with that said, here we go. Yes, captains, as I mentioned there in the introduction of this video, we wanted to give our 10 tips. Now, these 10 tips are just our starting ones, and there are many. So what I want to do for captains who are watching this and who are veteran captains, do me a favor. In the comments below, any tip that I have missed or any tip you want to add to newer captains, do so. And who knows, we might make a part 2, maybe part 3 of tips to give newer captains. So we're just going to get straight into it now. One of the first things you're going to do, and we're over here, but we're going to go to the character selection screen, because that's the first thing you're going to do, is create a character in Star Trek Online. And it's easy as when you get to this very first screen here, all you have to do is click any of the factions here that you see in the new character button here. So you get Federation, KDF, Romulan, TOS, Jem'Hadar, and Discovery. Now, I would just say pick whoever you want. Pick whatever species you want. For me, I'm a Fedi boy, so I have a lot of Federation, and it is pretty easy to do so. Now, when it comes to thinking a little down the line, depending on your play style, if you're one of those type of players who like to min-max, well, I'll give you this extra little tip for tip 1, which is go for a Romulan tomb character and then pick an alien species. Why? Because they get an extra trait, and those extra traits can really help you when you're trying to min-max your performance. But other than that, it really is up to you. If you're here just to have fun, enjoy the Star Trek universe, enjoy creating your captain, crew, and flying your ships, it doesn't really matter. There's going to be 3 careers. There's going to be tactical, engineering, and science. You can go ahead and pick whatever you want. But if you want min-max, tactical is the way to go, especially when it comes to going and pushing the limits of your performance. Now, for Romulan characters, when you pick them, keep in mind that you will be factionless until level 10. When you hit level 10, you'll be able to decide which side you will be continuing to serve, which is either Federation or KDF. That is up to you. My recommendation is KDF. And go KDF and or Federation. It really doesn't matter, but my recommendation, sorry, is Federation. So, but it depends on what you grew up on, right? So, and when Romulans reset level 10, they'll get to do that. Now, for Jem'Hadar characters, after the tutorial, that's when you pick your side. That is when you pick your side. Either Federation or KDF. So that in itself is a great way to start Star Trek Online. Now, there are also things known as recruitment events. Now, we're not going to get too deep into this video because it's just 10 tips, but within this tip 1, recruitment events are really good times to make new characters. And whenever they're on, you will see any of these faction icons here glowing. And for example, when you actually, and all you got to do is get through the tutorial to make that a recruit character, and you'll see these little signs here behind their names. See, there's a KDF, there's a Jem'Hadar, there's a Temporal, there's a Delta, and of course I do have, this is the TOS tunes, I should say, TOS. So that is something to keep in mind whenever those events come online. to make your character when those recruitment events are going. So that is kind of tip one. It had little sub tips in it, but we want to make sure that we don't just say tip one, create tune. No, got a little bit of detail. Now, once you've created your character, once you've gone through the tutorial, you'll be most likely, especially if you picked Federation, be put here in ESD. Now from here, my recommendation is just to go through the story arcs. Now, to pick the screen window for the episodes, you go here to the top right corner here, and you go to this button here, it says Open Mission Journal, or you can press J. It'll open up the same thing. And you head over to the episodes list here, and you'll see there is a lot of story content here in Star Trek Online. Go from the very top all the way to the end. And in these actual arcs here, there are sometimes 5, 10 story missions to go through. And this will keep you busy for a while. I don't know how long, but it'll keep you busy for a while. Now, I also do recommend when doing the actual story missions is to do them on normal. There's no point in you doing the story in advanced or especially elite, especially if you're starting. Once you've built up your character, if you want to challenge yourself through elite, go back to the stories again, that's totally fine. Or challenge yourself on your second time around, that's totally fine. But your first playthrough, to enjoy the story, emphasize the story, go under normal. And some of these missions have some great rewards, and sometimes you may have to play them more than once. Now, one of the missions that I do really highly recommend is the one here, I believe in Future Proof. Was it Future Proof or was it New Frontiers? Yeah, this one. So Nexus is the one I'm looking for. Where's Nexus? There's a mission here that gives you some great rewards here. Beyond the Nexus, sorry, yes. New Frontiers, Nexus, well, why?
I need you to find out what happened to the Madison. And
now, when you go to...
I need you to find out
the mission here, and when you have it, I might already have it in my journal here. Let's check quickly. Future Proof, Time and Tide, no I don't. But, for example, these mission journals here do give you the reward. It's not showing right now when I'm doing it. But let's say you go replay.
Searching for signs of weaponized protomatter, one of our long-distance research.
Okay, here's a good example here.
Curious discovery.
So you can pick a reward at the end, and you have to pick one. Choose one of the following, and if you want all the rewards, you're going to have to play it through. For example, if you want all the rewards for this particular example here,
very similar to our own.
You're going to have to play through it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times.
We're going to investigate, and
I don't know why it's not showing the Nexus one where I can't. This is replay, but it's just saying hail. But regardless, you're going to have to do that if you want all the rewards. And some of them are really worth doing. Again, not going to go into detail. There may be a different video for that. And it is just a great way to start as well, because you get weapons, space, ground, also space sets like shields, deflectors, whole space sets at times. So again, going through story missions is the next tip there, tip number 2, and just going through them under normal. Okay, tip 3, your HUD, your HUD, your display here, you can actually change this and rearrange this how you want to. How? Well, all you're gonna have to do is press F12. And here you can see, you can move all of the things here that are in green. From your minimap, your endeavor tracker, lower priority, PvP missions, interaction window, however you want. Your powers, your tray, you can move them anywhere you want so that it's customized to you and it's easy for you to find things on your HUD when you're on that. And again, all you gotta do is press F12 And there you go, that pops up. That's both ground and in space. Now, when you do so, it's up to you where you want it to place it, either to the right, but just know that there are windows here all over the place. But I like to have the default here for ground is like in the middle. I've just kept it there. Nothing too really difficult about that. I've just kept it there over the years. But in space, I can move it around too. Again, F12 is the way to go to do so. And when you do that, it's very easy to, all you gotta do is click and drag. For example, loot roll. You can click it and drag it anywhere you want, and that's it. Then just turn off again, F12. Now, these trays themselves, right here, are your abilities, where you can put them on here. You can put as up to 8 if you want, but again, it gets larger. I just use 3, personally. And then you can actually just use and number these trays however you want, and then stick your abilities here. Now, at the very top right of this will give you your available skills. Then all you gotta do is just drag them, click and drag them where you want. Just right click, put them there. That's it. And then you can just take them off by just right clicking it and taking it off your tray. Easy as that. Again, that's for both ground and space. Now, tip 3, as you're leveling up, okay, you're going to be getting a lot of skill points, and you will get a notification saying that you have skill points to spend. Now, I'm going to press my U. It's going to bring up this menu again here. As you can see, that's your captain. You can see that is the display there. Now, skills, you're going to get, like I said, to spend in this skill tree. I recommend going heavy on tactical, because that's things like obviously damage and such. Science is more your exotic abilities, and engineering your healing and or HP values. But as you can see, how I've spent mine is I have 8 in engineering, 10 in science, and 28 in tactical. If you want to have a look at it, screenshot this, totally fine. This has served me very well over the years in any type of build I've done. Whether it be full out DPS, support, or even tanking, this is done fine. But experiment on your own. What works for you could totally be different than what works for me. So keep that in mind to spend the skill point when you receive them. When you're leveling up as well, between 10 to 40, I should say, you'll be getting free tokens for ships to use. Now, they're not the most powerful ships. They're very level appropriate ships. You just have to go here to where you see all the starships docked inside ESD here for the Federation side, and go to acquire ships here on the left. Click on that, get new starships. Now, it'll usually say you'll have a token of some sort, and then it'll show you what ships are available to you at your rank. But there's sub menus here that you can see here. So the categories, you got your cruiser, science vessel, escort, raider, raptor, battle cruiser, lieutenant cruisers, light cruisers, should I say, not lieutenant, dreadnought cruisers, carrier shuttles, fighters, destroyers, strike wing escorts, multi-mission science vessels, and warbirds. Now the ranks, this is where it'll show you as you go through your levels of what's going to be available to you. Purchase filter, I wouldn't worry about that. Now, in doing so, from level 10 to 40, you will, like I said, level 10 is probably just going to be the lieutenant here. Then you're going to go to lieutenant commander. And then your commander. And then you should be able to get a captain type ship. when you go through. But again, it'll show you if you have a token, you can go through that and what you can pick. And you can get a good amount of cannon ships, screen accurate ships, as you level up. That's between levels 10 and 40. But when you hit level 61, you do get a tier 5 token that you can get, and you can still use it here in the acquire ships. So there is that for that. That is, of course, the tip number 4. Now, lastly, before we go to the 5th one, you also get traits when you're leveling up. Now, there's a lot. There is a lot here, Captain, so I'm not going to try to overload you, but try to do it sort of at a tip with some context here. So you'll get personal ground traits that'll unlock, personal space traits, starship traits, space reputation, ground reputation, active ground reputation, and active space reputation. And they'll be empty, and all you got to do is click on the empty box and then fill it in with whatever you have. And then as you go through them, you'll find out what works best for you. So there's that. So now we go to tip number 5. Now with the 5th one, it is to use the doffing missions and Admiralty system when you have access to them. Now for doffing missions, it's level 10, Admiralty level 52. Now for doffing, the window there, you're going to go to the top right. Mine's actually glowing here. You'll see here at the very middle at the bottom of the map, duty officers. I recommend this because this is a great way to get experience. You're going to get experience points regardless when you do, or expertise and stuff like that, when you go through missions or anything that you do in this game that gives you this. But this gives you a little extra too as well. And it gives you some resources in dilithium, such like that. My main resource between the two grabber is Admiralty. Now, any ships you own, this is definitely going to be a place where you can use the ships to also get you rewards. Again, you get experience, you sometimes even get one-time use Admiralty ships, but also dilithium, which of course is one of the main currencies in this game that you can convert to Zen to get ships in the Z store. Because who doesn't want ships in the Zen store? You can see here, you go into ships, this is what you use, Zen is what you use to buy ships here. So between the two, Admiralty is my main go-to. I would recommend just going through all of them on a day-to-day basis, because at first I think you'll only have 1 or 2 slots, and then when you have leveled them up to a certain point, you'll be able to do 3. But when you do in progress, you see here, sorry, you have like 4 or 5, I think, and then you can go up to the max once you've actually done everything there. Now, when everything's maxed out, you're gonna get a payout. You're gonna get Admiralty ships, dilithium, and all that stuff. Now, when you're done, continue doing them between the Federation campaign and the Ferengi Alliance campaign. Why? Well, they're both gonna give you resources. Ferengi will give you bonus dilithium pool, that when you get dilithium, it'll kick in and give you an extra bonus. Federation will net you experience points that you can automatically level up, and if you're max level, that just gives you automatic dilithium 2 times, which is, I believe, like 4,000 dilithium. So it's very worthwhile to do these when you log in daily. I spend sometimes anywhere from 10-15 minutes to an hour. That's on multiple tunes when I do that. So that's that tip there, is doing your doffing and Admiralty. Next tip, number 6, is selling your items that you've gotten through the missions that you're not going to use to the vendor. Now, I would just recommend going here again to this area here and go to the very far right and then they are the requisition ship equipment. So here you just click anyone and then you just go sell. Now when you go sell, it'll show you what you can. I'll show you your components there from your R&D that you can sell, but also things you pick up like loot. For example, stuff you'll see there, again, universal. It'll show stuff a lot in your inventory, whatever it is in your inventory, and it'll show the value of that here. Now, when it comes to the value of it, it'll be literally below the value, but again, I would not recommend putting them on the exchange and just sell them here for a quick EC, because you can get a lot. So for example, regenerative shield array, this is going to be pretty common. You get shields, weapons, warp cores, and such like that. You see there, all you gotta do is just double click on it and hit sell. There you go, you get energy credits. So if you want a little EC here to buy some simple things on the exchange, well, that is one way to do so, is selling things that you get that you're not going to use here at the requisition ship equipment. So there's that. On to the 7. Tip 7 is your boss, your bridge officers. Now, when you're going through your missions, just like yourself, you have equipment. You have kit modules, body, shield, weapons, and devices. As you go through the missions, you're gonna, I suggest you, of course, get the best equipment, and when you have gotten better equipment, put them on your captain, and then move them down to your bridge officers. That's kind of how I've leveled up, or when I did level up, because they'll help you on the ground, because you'll start with like Mark 1 stuff, and then it'll progressively go up to like Mark 12. So as you go through the missions, get the best gear for yourself, and then equip your actual bridge officers with the shields and the weapons and the bodysuits that you have outgrown, essentially, so that when you're doing ground missions with them, they'll help. They'll actually stay alive longer, and they'll do more damage alongside you. With your bridge officers, I also do recommend to train them with new abilities in your stations here. Again, in this tab here, all you gotta do is press the U. That brings up this window here in stations to change your powers, because they will come with default powers, but if there are something that you don't want to use, I would recommend you train them to get the ones you want. So for example, or just the tactical ability, all you gotta do here, ESD, let's go to Quinn's office, go down the stairs and to your left. And then see here, this is where you train bridge officers with the abilities you want. For both space and ground. All you gotta do is have enough EC to buy the abilities, and then what you want to do when you have the ability, what you want, go to the bridge officer that you want to train that in, go to their skills, and you're gonna have 4 different levels. And you're gonna have the ensign, lieutenant, lieutenant commander, and commander. It'll just be in whatever rank that they're in, and all you gotta do is press learn right here, but you gotta make sure they also have enough experience, because it'll show you a cost here. Again, you get that through playing missions, so don't worry about that. Part of building your ships is also synergizing your builds. How you synergize your builds, bridge officers play a huge part in that. So this is where you can get the abilities to do so. So there's that. Now, when it comes to the 8th tip, it's trying to find your preferred style For me, I recommend at the very lower levels going with beams. Now, with your ship here, as you can see, this is like more of a cannon build. I don't know how that got equipped there. It's not supposed to be there. But this is where you're going to be slotting your weapons, your space sets, your aft weapons. Those are 4. Some ships have experimental slots. All the ships have devices, and of course they have console slots. Now, I recommend as you go through your missions, get beams of the same type. And of course, when you get higher ranked weapons, so let's say from Mark 1 to Mark 2, keep replacing them. And then those older weapons, you can go ahead and sell them. And then try synergizing your build as best as possible. So, for example, I might have one here randomly. If I don't, then that's okay. But let's say you get a phaser beam, right? Phaser cannons, whatever it is. Try to stick to that type of weapon and pick consoles that are going to boost that. So there are going to be phaser relays or disruptor relays if you decide to go disruptors, plasma, and again, all of the other types. There's Tetrion, there's Polaron, but try to synergize it as best as you can. Now, for those captains who want to go mix your weapons, go ahead and do so. Okay, that's why it's not optimal, but that's why I recommend putting things on normal. You can still get away with having beams and torpedoes on your build. I have a lot of those. And then trying to pick consoles, things at your disposal, to try to boost them. So you might not have a lot when you're starting off, but when you play, you'll start to gain that. And then of course you can build that up through various things down the road through, again, mission rewards, events, we'll get into that in a bit, and or the reputation. We'll get into that too a little bit. The best thing you can do is synergize your build. Now, in terms of recommending, I recommend beams as the best way to go through the story, because those are going to be abundant when you are going through the mission. When you kill NPCs, they'll drop that loot. Is that. And when it comes to the bridge officer abilities, again, going back to the bridge officers here, the best way for me that I love playing was beam overload. That's a single target, but the more effective and efficient way is having a AoE, area of effect, or area type attack, which is I do have on this, which is cannon scatter volley, because you can pick up to not just 1 but 3 targets. So that's something to kind of think of as you're going along. Again, when you get those training manuals, you can read them, see what they do for you. They'll boost whatever you have on your ship, so there's no worries there. So there is that. And the 9th tip that we're going to go for here is your reputation. Now, your reputation unlocks when you get to level 50. And again, how you access that is you press U to bring up this, and it's a tab here, reputation. And there's 13. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 reps to go through. It's going to be very daunting. I'm not going to lie to you newer captains, to go through all of them, especially trying to acquire the marks and then rank them all the way up to level 6, but it is worth it. Now, I'm going to do a separate video in the future in going our kind of ranking the reputations and what to get from them, but there's not a video for them. This tip, though, is just tell you captains to do them. Now, how to quote-unquote do them and fill them out is you're going to have to do these hourly and daily missions, and you get them by clicking select active project. I've already clicked the hourly. This will give you the lithium and the actual reputation points you need to build up. You get the daily, which gives a bigger chunk, and then the hourly. Now, it will take energy credits, it will take expertise, and the marks of that certain reputation. How to gain them quickly, I'll give you a quick tip, sub-tip on this one, is to do events. Events are always abundant in Star Trek Online, so that's one way to do them. You go here again, top left, mission journal, go events. You will see what's going on here. Now we'll get to this a little bit later. But right now, currently, there's the 15th anniversary as the drop of this video happening. And as you can see, it also gives you a reward for a ship. Look at that. For this particular one, hopefully you're able to do this event there for that ship. They give free ships through events all year round. And you can see there the requirements to do so. It's like a daily requirement. But the rewards you do it from doing those, you can actually pick the max reward of marks. So when you get the reward, pick the one you want to build up. And that should last you about a couple days or so. So as you're going daily through the events, pick the main one you're working on and then start working on other ones for later on the road. It probably took a new tune that I had made, I'd like to say about maybe a month or two, maybe 2 months, just doing the dailies, slotting it to make sure you get that. Now, on top of doing the reputation, the reward you get for it is pretty good, because you also get like actual dilithium reward for it. So you can go under assets here, is you get the lithium ore. Now going through all the reputations, you get about 390,000 dilithium that you can use initially primarily to get reputation items to start replacing items on your ship. So for example, I already have one as a very stable part or weapon that I use on my build, which is this, the Terran Task Force Phaser Heavy Cannons. That is a reputation that you can get essentially with just time investment. And that unlocks as you go through your reputations here, and you can see which ones you will get to unlock as you go and rank up in any reputation. The reputation system is great, but again, it will be daunting because there's a lot to fill out. But take it one day at a time. Do not burn yourself out to trying to max out your reputation, because I've seen some people do that, try to catch up to long-time players like myself, and they just end up burning themselves out. I think Star Trek Online is more of a marathon than a sprint, to be honest with you. Yeah, so reputation, definitely there on my top tips there for starting. Now, the final tip that we will give for this video, and we already talked about it, is the events. Now for events, it is all year round, especially this now event campaign. Now we did just recently do one, and when you get enough progress for this particular one, 4,200, you get these rewards. Initially, when we got the event campaign, it was only pick one of the 3. But now the change in 2024 is they give all of us, which is awesome. It's a great kickstart to any STO career for any captain. Now, doing the event daily up until the very end is what I recommend to do with any event that you have, whether it be an event campaign or standalone event standalone event outside the event campaign. But for the event campaign particularly, it took me about 3.5 to 4 events to actually get all the rewards. Well, that's not bad. So about half a year. So 6 months, I'm going to get a premium tier 6 starship, 2 tier 6 ship coupons, and 1,500 low-buy, which is another currency. There's a lot of currencies here, but we're not going to get into that, not in this particular video. For this 10th tip and final one, definitely recommend doing the events, because for this particular one, the 15th anniversary, it'll give you a ship. Some of the events that are standalone outside, like this 15th anniversary one is outside the event campaign, they also give you space weapons, space sets like shields, deflectors, engines, ground weapons, some unique rewards. So definitely look out for the events, and you can always see what's going on here event-wise. Well, here also in the channel as we try to also deliver the news that way. But also you can open up your mission journal as we mentioned, and you will see what events are running. I don't know why they keep some of the winter and summer and tabs here that are done. Here it says ended, so you can't really get progress with that. But for example, Q's Winter Wonderland, which is once a year at the very end of the year, you can see there the reward that we got there was an actual ship. And this ship was a ship in Star Trek Picard Season 3 to be exact, which is the Helios, which is the ship that Beverly Crusher captained. So you get some really good rewards, space, ground, as you do these events. So I know that was a lot to go over. We didn't want to try to make this video too long. And within the tips, we gave kind of some tips in there to try to give a little bit more information, but not too much, hopefully. So again, just to recap, tip 1, create your characters, pick your faction, and do the recruitment events. If you want to min-max, go to ROM Alien TAC. Tip 2, go through all the story arcs under normal difficulty. And sometimes you're going to have to replay them to get the max rewards from them, which is sometimes even a full space set in itself, ground weapons, and they can be placeholders until you get better ones as your story career grows. Third tip, arrange your trays by using the PUD F12 command. Move them around, put in your abilities as well by dragging them onto your tray, both for ground and space. The fourth one is spending your skill points. My recommendation is to put them in TAC first, but you can see the descriptions as you read them. When you're leveling up, also you get from 10 to 40 free ships, and then level 61 you get a tier 5 ship, and of course equip any traits you get as you're leveling up. Tip 5 is doing your doffing missions and Admiralty missions when they're available to you. Doffing missions available at level 11, Admiralty at 52. 6 is selling your items that you're no longer using for a little bit of EC, because you may never know what you need to get, especially when it comes to components, to repairing your ship and such. There's that. And then the next tip here, tip 7, equipping your bridge officers, your boss, with items that you're already done with, and then passing them on to them, whether it's the shields or weapons, to help you out when you're doing missions, especially on ground, and then training them for space abilities to push your performance when you're in space. There's that. So the 8th tip here, again, finding your preferred style in terms of your space pews. I would recommend beams, replacing your weapons with higher rank ones as you go along, synergizing your builds, keeping it all phasers, either all phasers, all disruptors, all polarons, all tetrions, and then making sure that you have the bridge officer abilities to back them up, as we mentioned in the previous tip, and using consoles in your ship slots to boost whatever weapons you have on your ship. Tip 9, do the reputation, all of them, because there's a lot. There's a lot to do. 13 of them, and I'll give you great rewards, great weapons even still used in meta builds, all the time, and it just takes time investment, so keep that in mind. And then, of course, lastly, doing any events that are live, whether it be the event campaign or standalone event campaigns. There's also like the summer event, the winter event. They all give great rewards. And it's all going to be worth it because, as I mentioned, Star Trek Online is more of a marathon as opposed to a sprint. If you're patient enough, give Star Trek Online a chance. You're going to be able to build your resources, build your captain's career here, and then have a really decent, in 1 year, have a lot of decent ships, gear to go on, continue on in Star Trek Online. So those are my 10 tips, captains. To my vet caps, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, in the comments below, let me know your tips that you want to know your fellow captains who are new to Star Trek Online, and I may use them as follow-ups to this, as a part 2 to this, because there's so much to hear in Star Trek Online that there's one video cannot explain everything. I don't know everything. There may be stuff out there that I don't know that I could be taught. And this is what Star Community does. We help each other here. So put them in the comments below so that everyone is able to benefit from that. Captains, if you're new to Star Trek Online, welcome. It is a great game. It's an old game, but it's still a great game. If you grew up with Star Trek, I know you're going to love Star Trek Online. Give it a chance. At the very least, go through the story. The story is great, especially when you get to the Iconian arc. I think that's still one of the best arcs in Star Trek Online. I don't know, captains, let me know below in the comments, those who are veteran captains. So that's going to be it for this video. Do us a favor, hit the like button. Of course, if you're new here, new to Star Trek Online, consider subscribing to the YouTube bridge, and we'll leave it on this note.
Live long and prosper.